Well, good morning, degenerates. As you may or may not have noticed, depending on how much weed you're smoking during quarantine, some things have changed. But regardless of whether I'm trying something new or not, we have a dev diary to dig through, a little bit of an analysis to do. We're going to go way too deep into it, try and pull out, realize it's too late, and then we've got a new world baby on the way. But before we get into that, we've got some problems to address. Because you see all these comments right here, and there, and there. Now, you don't have to worry about that because I think I'm too stupid to actually know what fame is. Plus, you can't be famous if you're on the internet. You can only really be infamous. What do you mean fame is gonna change me or anything like that? I'm immune to that kind of shit. I know what you mean. I'm exactly the same as I always was. No, you can't have my autograph. Get away from my car. Shoot. Get out of here. Hello? Hello? Is this my agent? Yeah, some normal person is harassing me. Get security. But you know what, enough with the foreplay. We've got a dev diary to analyze. Now, there's nothing too special about this little intro clip. We've seen a lot of these views before. Most of it seems to be rehashed footage that they've just reset as an intro here. I think there's only really two interesting things here to try and point out when looking at these scenes, and it's this right here. Now, if we look at this, we've got some flames going on, and we've got a capture point that we obviously either have to defend or attack. Now, those flames that are there, is that purely aesthetic or is that an AoE that's going on? Are those flames damaging those players? You can't be sure by the visuals here, but I think they might be an AoE, or at least a mage setting up for one. Otherwise, it's just a nice pretty flame effect to go with the good visuals in the rest of this game. Now, the second thing to look at is this bad boy right over here, because now this thing right here has been confirmed as an actual weapon that we drop molten liquid on our enemies from, and it's not just some aesthetic piece that sits on our wall and looks pretty. I quite like the fact that so many of these platform things have been integrated into the game. We spoke about this thing in the last website deep dive, and you know what, I'm going to be speaking about it in the next one because we get to take a look at the siege weaponry.
The tournament is divided into territories. Some of those territories can be controlled by companies of players.
When two territories clash, a war can begin. One territory can challenge another to war at their fort.
Okay, so again, none of this is really new information to any of us. This is stuff that they've already kind of covered in the past. I'm a little bit confused as to why they're covering it again, but maybe it just needs a bit of a rehashing. So you have a company that takes over a location. You then have another company that wants that location. They then have to undermine that company to a particular level before they can then put together an army, start a war, schedule that war, and try and take over that territory.
So if one company is in control of a territory, if you have enough standing, you can go with your company and try to do basically a hostile takeover.
Now here they've at least given us something interesting to look at. So you see these rings right here that you might be looking at, and you see that there's a very, very clear indicator that it's both blue and red. Now this might be some kind of timer, because as you'll notice in some of these pictures, the blue ring is smaller than the red one and the red ring is smaller than the blue one, or it's entirely red or it might be entirely blue. Now these look like control points. These look like these flags that we have to capture, these points of a siege that progress the siege forward. Now this gives us a pretty clear and pretty good indicator of what's going on here. Everyone can see it from a fairly large distance away, and it might be acting as a timer, purely because of the way that ring is constructed. As the red covers the blue or the blue covers the red, that might be some kind of timing indicator. Now what I'm interested to see is there a reverse timer? If, let's say, an enemy gets very close to taking over a certain flag point that you're supposed to capture and control, if you then beat them back, take control of that point, does their control amount reduce over time? Or does it just stay the same and you have to now deal with how close they are to that capture point? And there it is again. You see there you've got some nice bright flames sticking out at you. I'm pretty sure that's an ability. I'm pretty sure that's some kind of weapon or siege weapon, something in that category.
Every company in control of a territory sets what's called a siege window.
Once that's scheduled, you have this 1 hour intense PvP battle.
This is a 50 versus 50 player battle between the two companies for control of the territory.
It's really the pinnacle moment of PvP in the game.
So there you go, in that little clip we got a dense little package of information. We know now that all these sieges are going to be 1 hour long. We know that there's a siege window that's going to be set around. We know that this is meant to be the new main focus around PvP. I simply hope they expand on the system. I want to see more PvP elements in this game because they've cut it back so much that I hope they put some new systems in for PvP. This game looks like it would be amazing to PvP in. I want to see those systems flood the game. I want to see as much PvP as possible. I am still a little bit salty about the fact that they removed open world PvP, so I hope that they give something back to the people who are coming into this game to PvP.
Once a war starts, the attacking side is set to task to use siege weapons to take down the fortress gates.
The defenders then get to be inside their fort and have access to siege defense weapons, such as the mighty horn that can buff their allies.
It becomes this big epic battle where there's 50 players charging at the gates.
So as the attacker, you win the war by first taking down all the gates so that you can get inside of their base. And once you're inside, you siege the flag. And if you can stay near that flag for a set amount of time, you take the fort.
Now from a visual standpoint, all of this looks fucking excellent. It looks exceptionally well done. It looks very well polished. I like the idea of us not just being able to use siege weapons to defend, but to attack as well. That we've got some balance going on here. All of these battles look very cinematic, they look very beautiful. I'm hoping that it's the same once we get into game and we get to play some of the beta and, well, when the game is out entirely. My one little gripe with what I'm seeing here is the Gary's mod level of people sitting in their turrets. They're very stiff, they're very rigid. They don't look alive. They look like a Barbie doll that's kind of just been strapped onto the side of the siege turrets. Now that might be because, well, they haven't had time to put those animations in, and it's alpha. They've got more important things to worry about, especially with the whole Rona thing slowing them down, and the game just not being ready to be released yet. I hope they fix that up, because it seems even more out of place, especially with everything else being so exceptional, being so beautiful, that you have these really stiff motions when it comes to using the siege weapons.
The war's timed, so you'll have about an hour to get in there, take over that flag in the middle.
And ultimately, one winner is going to be declared when the battle is over.
It's a new level of social dynamism that no other game has.
In addition to player versus player wars, territory owners will also have to worry about invasions. This is where waves of enemies from all across Eternum come to lay siege to your fortress.
See, now we've got some visuals to look at that go alongside the website deep dive that I've had a look into. Now we get to put a face to the name of the enemies that we're going up against when it comes to PvE. If you look at these character animations, if you look at the way they're moving, if you look at everything around these invasions that occur in New World, it's a very polished system, which is frankly quite surprising and impressive considering that this was meant to be a PvP open world sandbox to begin with. Now looking at all the stylizations, looking at the atmosphere that builds up, we know that we get attacked every 4 days, and we know that these attacks are continuous and get worse as we improve our own settlements. But looking at this, they haven't just given it a siege. It's not just some random zombie horde that's coming at us. It seems these things have a lot of thematic elements to them. The sky darkens, things feel bad. This feels like the horror moment in the game of, oh shit, are we gonna lose everything we've built up? And it might give some longevity to these kinds of systems, because not only have you built a system that people want to be inside of, but there's an atmosphere, there's a theme, there might even be music around these kinds of things. This is a bread and butter system, especially for PvE players. This is the kind of thing that'll keep people coming back, especially if it's very dynamic, if it keeps on changing. As long as it's not a static system that they just throw into the game and leave alone and never touch, this will keep people playing the game for years to come.
As the corrupted breaches sort of escalate intensity, over time those eventually lead to a large-scale invasion.
The corrupted, with their armies ever eager to take over the whole island, come marching up to forts and challenge the players.
Invasions are different from war. Invasions are large-scale PvE events where hundreds of corrupted try to ruin all of your progress in up-leveling your territory.
All the enemies that really scare you out in the world, you now see in an invasion. And they come after you, they come after the gates, and eventually they come for the flag.
There's great loot to be had, there's money to be made, there's reputation that you'll gain.
Quick point to hit on there. That's fantastic to hear. Money, loot, reputation. Now, I'm not sure quite what you would use the reputation for, because I don't think you can form alliances in this game outside of your original faction. However they've implemented that into the game, I'm interested to see, but it's nice to know that you do get a reward from doing this, and it's not just a stick system that beats you to death if you lose and then everything gets downgraded.
They happen pretty frequently. You'll need to prepare, and it's just waves and waves of corrupted that you'll need to battle back.
It's when the game really sings.
And well, there you go. We end off with the new release date, August 25th, 2020. I'm really hoping they don't push it back any further than that. I think that might be the thing that kills the game, but I'm fine with this being a reset to give more time to get familiar with it, for them to be able to work on it more and polish up all the systems. But that was just a quick little deep dive into the Dev Diary, War and Invasions. I hope you enjoyed watching. Let me know what you think of the new editing style, whether it's better, it's worse, whether you like green screens or hate them. I figured I'd give it a try. And let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think that this game is going to be an absolute flop? Do you think it's too late and that there's nothing that can save it? Or do you think that this game is going to be exceptional? Which side of the fence do you land on with this thing? I'd really be interested to know everyone's opinion and get as much information as I can. But anyway, that's going to be it for me. I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope you have a great day. I hope everything goes your way. But it's time now for you and I to bugger off. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers for now.